If you want to get maximum impact, you're going to have to exclude people. Strangely, the more niche you make your product or service seem, the more you'll find people attracted to it. Just like on a board, where the tiniest part of a board seems to attract the largest number of dart throwers. Every product will solve multiple problems, yet if you base your marketing on individual profiles, each message will be far more powerful than if you simply try to get every single problem across in the same message. By aiming for the bullseye, we're eliminating 90% or more of the dartboard. Yes, you read right. The purpose of profiling is indeed meant to exclude customers who don't fit the profile. And does it work? You bet it does. I'm reading to you my highlights of an excellent book on marketing, which is The Brain Audit, Why Customers Buy and Why They Don't by Sean D'Souza. I would recommend you read this book no fewer than 3 times. Why? Simply because each reading will bring a new understanding, which can then be applied with far greater potency. The best way to use the structure of the brain audit is to use the concepts as an auditor would. So just as an auditor looks at something after it's complete, you should do the same. Create your web page and then audit it. Create a presentation first, then go clean it up. Create an advertisement, and only then fix the glitches. Now this book isn't a magic potion, but it gives you a deep insight into what makes our brains respond and what causes our brains to ignore a message. The ickiest feeling in sales and marketing is one when you've got a great product or service and the audience just won't respond. The problem. The brain recognizes a problem long before it recognizes the solution to the problem. To keep you alive, your brain starts to catalog all the things, events, situations, and experiences it needs. And very quickly it works out what's an irritant, what's kinda dangerous, and what's really scary. In any given situation, your brain goes through these quick steps. Step 1. Your brain sees a change. Step 2. It recognizes if you're going to be in trouble or not. Step 3. It takes measures to get out of the way. The problem has got your attention to the exclusion of everything else. When you bring up the problem in your marketing materials, sales pitches, and presentations, you are in turn activating the brains of your customers. While the brain is focused on the problem, we typically use the solution or benefits to get the attention of our customers. Is it any wonder that your marketing and sales doesn't get the kind of response you're expecting? A fast processor that seems to be a good solution today is a problem tomorrow. A new car that's shiny and wonderful today is a problem tomorrow. And so it goes. Whatever you're selling only has add-on value if you're solving a problem. If you're not solving a problem in some new and interesting way, then what's the point of your product or service? This affirms that we're not making up problems to scare customers into buying our products or services. All we're really doing is highlighting the issues that exist and showing customers how their lives can be better if they adopt our products or services. And of course, we do this by highlighting the problem. Instead of being a scaremonger, the problem is an educational tool. It brings to the fore factors that already exist. What's more, a problem may reveal a situation that you aren't currently aware of. Your customer is juggling several problems all at once. If you don't elevate the problem, your customer will never notice your product or service. Elevating a problem ensures that your product or service gets higher priority than everything else. The problem exists. You aren't making it up. You aren't being negative. Every product or service solves many problems. To get your message out effectively, you have to isolate the problem. In other words, choose one. If your product or service doesn't isolate a problem, then the customer can't relate to what you're selling. But on the other hand, if you isolate the problem, the customer is quickly able to lock in to the problem and then investigate what kind of solution you're bringing to the table. Even one problem, when properly dealt with, will attract a swarm of customers. This isolation of the problem is necessary because people are busy. They're busy with their problems. And unless the problem you state is crystal clear, they may be more than likely to miss your message. Trying to take someone through every room in your house is quite a silly strategy. Isolate the room that's most interesting to the customer before showing them the rest of the rooms. Pain and problems are a natural magnet for the brain. Are we just inventing problems to compel the customer to buy? Are we creating urgency out of nothing at all? Your customer isn't a fool. He or she knows what he or she wants. When you present the problem in the right manner, that want is elevated and is given a sense of urgency. And that causes the customer not to put off the decision until later, but to take action right away. The solution. The solution is simply the answer to the problem. The customer has a problem. You bring up the solution. The customer has an issue that needs fixing. You're the fix-it person. The solution is simply the answer to a need or want that the customer has. You tend not to notice a solution if you don't have a problem in the first place. When the customer is faced with a problem, he or she is looking for a solution. But the customer's brain is not just looking for the solution, it's also looking for whether you as a supplier of products or services understands its owner's problem. So no, the solution can't be dropped like a hot potato. The solution does indeed have a place. And its rightful place is right after you've brought up the problem. Once the problem has been activated in the customer's brain, it's imperative to bring up the solution. The process is the method you use to solve a problem. The solution, on the other hand, is simply the answer to the problem. In effect, your solution statement should be the mirror image of the problem statement. The reason why they use the power of the problem is because the brain is focused on the problem. The brain learns to recognize a problem long before it sees a solution. We've isolated the problem from the last chapter and simply presented the solution to that very problem without trying to be too creative or clever. Not being too creative or clever is important because the customer is not looking for a clever answer. They have a problem. You've identified the problem. They want a solution. Give them the solution. The solution is the flip side of the problem. If the customer's computer is slow, you're speeding it up. If the customer's mattress is too spongy, you're providing a well-supported mattress. If the customer is paying too much for their airfares, you're providing a low-price alternative. There's nothing clever about the solution. There shouldn't be. All the solution should do is flip the problem around. The target profile. The difference between a great sales and marketing message and a good one is an understanding of target profile. Target profile is simply the factor of choosing one person, not an entire audience, but one solitary person, and then crafting your message to that one person. There's not one product or service on this planet that can't be sharpened with precise profiling. And precise profiling works on the basis of one person. There's a slight difference when you build a business on the basis of a specific profile, and that difference is one of specifics. That when you build a business with one person in mind, you attract hundreds, thousands, even millions of customers. How do you create a profile? Step 1. Start with a demographic. Step 2. Choose a real person from that demographic. Step 3. Speak to that person and find out their list of problems with regard to a product or service. Step 4. Choose one problem, then expand it. Step 5. Use a real person to get feedback. This is the part where we get the terminology, the emotion, the logic, the everything from the customer in her own words. And believe me, you don't want to stop her talking. Let her do the talking. You do the recording, do the questioning, and do the writing. Let her talk, because she's going to tell you things you could never make up sitting at your desk. And if you give her enough time, she's going to tell you the real reason why she wants those shoes. Profiling a client is starting to make a lot of sense. If you were starting up a business, that is. If you didn't have so many different clients, that is. If you weren't already selling products or services, that is. If you want to get maximum impact, you're going to have to exclude people. Strangely, the more niche you make your product or service seem, the more you'll find people attracted to it. Just like on a board, where the tiniest part of a board seems to attract the largest number of dart throwers. Every product will solve multiple problems, yet if you base your marketing on individual profiles, each message will be far more powerful than if you simply try to get every single problem across in the same message. By aiming for the bullseye, we're eliminating 90% or more of the dartboard. Yes, you read right. The purpose of profiling is indeed meant to exclude customers who don't fit the profile. And does it work? You bet it does. There's a difference between target audience and target profile. An audience represents a group of people who seem to have something in common. The target profile is just one person. A real person with a real name, with a real address, and a real phone number, and with real problems. The trigger. A trigger is simply the ability of a message to stand out and get your attention. A trigger instantly gets the attention of the brain, and when faced with a trigger, the brain, your brain or the client's brain, has very little option but to respond in an excruciatingly predictable manner. It's excruciating because no matter how hard your brain tries, the only set of words it can think of are, "How do you do that?" Or, "What do you mean by that?" But how do you get the brain to respond so consistently? You get the consistency when you use the combination of the problem, solution, and target in one phrase or sentence. Yoga center owner, we help new moms quickly get back their pre-baby figure. Mom, how do you do that? Yoga center owner, we find that moms put on a lot of weight during their pregnancies, the problem, and want to get those extra kilos off, solution. But it's not just getting the kilos off that's the issue. Getting back to strenuous exercise can be difficult and lead to injury, problem. We help moms get back to their pre-baby figure with injury-free yoga, especially designed for new moms. And this helps new moms get back their pre-baby figure, solution. It's quite easy to water down the trigger. And when you water down the trigger, you get the kiss of death. The kiss of death isn't always apparent, but if you haven't activated the trigger, you're sure to hear statements such as 1. That's nice. 2. 3. That's interesting. The roller coaster effect is simply the drama of bringing in the problem at regular intervals. Every time the problem pops up, the brain is reactivated and stays on full alert as you deliver your message. You shouldn't overdo either the problem or the solution. Roll out too many problems and the customer feels overwhelmed and feels unable to respond. Bring in too many solutions and the customer gets too relaxed. He or she feels no urgency to buy your product or service right away. The objections. When we make a decision, we want to prove to ourselves that we're not making a mistake. And the quickest mechanism our brains have to avoid making a mistake is to put up a wall of objections. The objections don't go away, but it's important to recognize that objections are not a no. They're just obstacles that need to be removed. Objections are not your enemy, they are your friends. An objection literally means that the person who's doing the objecting wants to take a decision to buy your product or service or idea. If they didn't care about the product or service, they'd just walk away. Most of us secretly hope that the customer won't bring up any objections, that the customer will blindly buy the product or service, and that's a silly hope. What will kill the sale is a stubborn attitude to try and hide the objections. When a customer is confused or has questions that need to be answered, they don't usually pick up the phone and call you. They almost never email you or text you or send a carrier pigeon. They simply mull over the objection in their minds and then they procrastinate. You diffuse the objections by being prepared. You need to list out every possible objection that a customer could possibly ask. And you list the answer to those specific objections. If a customer comes up with more objections than you have on your list, just add it to that list of objections. In most situations, the perception is the first reason why objections pop up. The second reason why we object is based on past experiences. The third reason is just the unknown. When we're about to commit to something, we're not quite sure what we're getting into. The diffusing of the objections is not a persuasion exercise. It's just a matter of explaining why his objections are not valid. It's important to note that in most instances, the customer is keen to buy into the idea, service, or product, yet they tend to hesitate. This hesitation is natural, and it's important that you answer the objections in great detail and never rush a customer through. When pressurized, they may buy into your product, service, or idea, but later regret their decision. This regret is one of the reasons why they return products or ask for their money back. The worst thing that can happen is that a client brings up an objection, e.g. your price is too high, and you sit there wondering what to say. The testimonials. Understanding the objections leads to an understanding of what kind of testimonials you need to have in your message. So what's a reverse testimonial? A reverse testimonial is simply a testimonial that starts off in reverse. All testimonials start off with a praise and continue with a praise of a product or service. A reverse testimonial talks about doubt. It starts with a skepticism first. It describes the fear or uncertainty racing through the customer's mind at the point of purchase. What does construction of a testimonial mean? It doesn't mean fabrication. It doesn't mean you're going to make up some fake testimonials. Construction means you're using structure to get your testimonial. When you use structure, you don't get random testimonials, but instead get testimonials that are specific and story-like. The 6 questions you need to ask to get a powerful testimonial are: 1. What was the obstacle that would have prevented you from buying this product or service? 2. What did you find as a result of buying this product or service? 3. What specific feature did you like most about this product or service? 4. What would be 3 other benefits about this product or service? 5. Would you recommend this product or service? If so, why? 6. Is there anything you'd like to add? Ask the customer if expense or distance or comfort was one of their big issues. If they say yes, continue down that track and they'll give you the specifics of why expense or distance or comfortable accommodation was an issue. The job of testimonials is to reduce the customer's fear of buying the product or service. They're there to build trust. They're there to make your product and service believable. And when testimonials are structured correctly, that's exactly what they do. They reduce risk. The risk reversal. There are two stages to creating risk reversal. 1, the obvious risk. 2, the hidden risk. With a hidden guarantee, you're now assured that you don't have to keep the product in its original condition. So guess what? Your hesitancy goes away. But where does it go away? After you've bought the product? No, not at that point. It goes away before you've bought the product. When you're reading the sales page itself, you get the feeling that you can get a refund no matter what. Give the risk reversal a brand name, because it's way easier for a client to remember a guarantee with a name than just the terms of the guarantee. If your customers are going to ask for a refund in hordes, then you're essentially doing something wrong. And remember one thing, it's very, very hard for a customer to ask for their money back. Most customers will do nothing. They'll never buy from you again, but they'll almost never ask for their money back. So if you're getting a lot of customers complaining, it means your product is defective and your service isn't doing what it's expected to do. So it's a good thing if your customers are complaining. It's better to take the complaints on the chin and fix the problem than whine about the complaining customers. The only customers that do complain are those who want you to improve. The people who don't care about you won't complain, but will leave anyway. You don't have to risk reverse your entire project. You can cut up a project into slices, pretty much like a cake, and risk reverse each slice. That way you're only taking a limited risk. A risk reversal doesn't cheapen your product at all. In fact, as Jim Collins points out, it's a catalytic mechanism that you must have in your system because it enables you to spot faults and iron them out quickly. Rather than cheapen your products or services, it says that you stand behind your offering. The uniqueness. The big problem with uniqueness is that you're trying to find your uniqueness, and you end up with some cheesy line. What you need to do is create your uniqueness. Most people trying to find their uniqueness ask the question, what's unique about my business? Instead, they should be asking, what do I want to do in my business that's different from everyone else? You don't find your uniqueness, you invent it. Choose one of the factors you want to be the best at and then build your business around that factor of uniqueness. What's the one reason you set up your business? What do you want to do differently from everyone else? What's your dream for your customer? Think of your wildest wish, your wildest dream, and write it down. Uniqueness stands for one thing. It's not enough to have a uniqueness. It's critical to propagate the uniqueness everywhere. If your customer can't tell you the uniqueness of a brand in a millisecond, then either you don't have a uniqueness or you failed to make the uniqueness well known. So many businesses lose customers and suffer the ignominy of ridiculous pricing simply because they won't sit down and work out their uniqueness. And then having worked it out, they do nothing with it. Or worse, in an attempt to get a message across, they bring out several factors and completely water down the message. It's when you bite the bullet and stand for one thing that you really create a uniqueness factor. And that uniqueness factor creates the basis for everything you do and say. Step 1. Make a big list of what makes your business unique. Step 2. Weighted ranking will help you decide on the most important reason. Step 3. Flesh out the uniqueness to create more clarity. Finding a uniqueness is a pretty tough job. Clients aren't much help. Family or friends aren't much help either. And the reason why finding a uniqueness is such a tough job is because you're trying to find uniqueness. Uniqueness isn't just restricted to companies and businesses. You can create your own personal uniqueness too. You can decide to be the most technologically advanced person in your company or the most reliable. Well, thanks very much for listening or watching. If you want to find out more about the book, you can visit www.psychotactics.com.